COVID. It's back in the headlines, guys, with 3 variants now circulating across the country. Most recently, wastewater testing in South Carolina. It shows very high levels of the newest strain, XFG, or Stratus is what they're calling this one. Combined, the 3 strains are contributing to a nationwide upswing. So be careful, everybody. If you don't feel well, test yourself. New FDA rules limit who can get the vaccine. We know that, although states like California and New York are adopting their own guidelines. New Jersey also aiming to end vaccine mandates. So just something to be aware of, that it is still out there. And if you're not feeling well and you think, oh, it's just a cold, perhaps you want to do a rapid test and see if that's the case.
Yeah, so let's bring in bring in our doctor to help us sort all this out. So we're joined now by Dr. Payal Kohli, adjunct professor, Johns Hopkins University and Duke University. Doctor, thank you so much for being here. So what are the symptoms? Are these symptoms different this time around with this new strain than what we thought of last time?
So, guys, I want us to think about a multi generation family living together. So, you have the grandparents, you have the parents, then you have the kids. So, these new strains are essentially the children, the latest generation of COVID variants. And the good news is that they behave very similar to their parents. So, they cause a lot of the same symptoms. We are hearing about this razor blade variant because one of the symptoms of one of the newer strains like Stratus is an extremely severe sore throat. Some people say it feels like you're actually swallowing glass or there's something sharp in your throat at all times. But overall, they generally tend to cause the same symptoms. Thankfully, they're behaving like Omicron, like their parents. So they're not making you super sick, not ending you up in the hospital. And as Jim said, the tests actually work to detect these variants, even though they're newer variants, as well as Paxlovid, which is the treatment that we have. So the newer generation is always a little more naughty than the parents are, right? So that definitely the newer variants are more contagious. They spread more easily, but thankfully they don't seem to be making you sicker.
All this time during the fight against COVID, we hear about these updated vaccines over and over. Are these updated vaccines expected to protect against all these new variants, these new 3 variants, or just the newest strain?
Actually, the vaccine was designed against the last variant, so the parents of the newest variant, which is Stratus. But we still expect it to have really good protection because there is part of that parent in that child, as we know. In fact, I'm going for my vaccine just this Thursday. And remember, the goal of the vaccine here is not to 100% prevent infection, but to prevent severe infection and really keep people out of the hospital and make it so that COVID doesn't get in the way of our lives the way that it did in 2020.
So if people are confused by these state by state differences in terms of access and mandates about vaccines, what's the best course of action, doctor?
To be honest, Jim, I'm really confused too because every state seems to have its own rules, and there's going to be a tremendous amount of variability between states. And you think about Thanksgiving coming and Christmas coming. I live in Colorado, and so if a family member is visiting me from New York or somewhere else where the vaccine mandates are different, risk could be different. We have this concept of something called herd immunity, which is the idea that everybody behaves together in a herd. We do the same thing. And if most of us get vaccinated, then it'll protect even the ones that aren't vaccinated, aren't able to get vaccinated. But when you have this state to state variability, that can cause a problem. And at the end of the day, the more chances we give the virus to mutate by giving it opportunities to infect people, the more likely it is to mutate into something bad. So I don't think this idea of heterogeneity between states is going to serve us well heading into the winter months.
All right, Dr.
Dr. Kohli,
Kohli,
thank you.
thank you. Just something else to worry about as we head into the winter months. It would be interesting to see, whether this, spike turns into widespread new infections.